Tokyo, Japan. The year was 1988. Every morning, thousands of students walked through school gates, carrying books, talking with friends, and thinking about little more than classes or the weekend ahead. To everyone watching, it looked like another ordinary day. But hidden among those students were a handful of teenagers whose choices would eventually become part of one of Japan's most infamous criminal investigations. No one could have imagined what was about to unfold. Inside the school, lessons began, as usual. Teachers wrote across blackboards while students quietly copied notes into their notebooks. The classroom was calm. Everything appeared normal. But at the back of the room, a different story was beginning. A small group of teenage boys had already stopped caring about school. Rules meant nothing to them. They skipped classes whenever they wanted. One of those teenagers was Shinji Minato. Away from school, his life looked very different. At home, anger seemed to fill every room. Even dinner with his family could end in shouting. One evening, frustration boiled over. Instead of going somewhere safe, he walked toward people who welcomed violence. He entered a smoke-filled back room where older gang members gathered. These weren't classmates looking for excitement. They were experienced criminals. Among them stood another teenager who had already dropped out of school. Inside those rooms, violence was treated like strength. Fear was treated like power. The younger boys watched carefully. They wanted approval. Slowly, their way of thinking began to change. Acts that once seemed wrong started feeling normal. Every bad decision pushed them one step deeper into crime. By late 1988, the group had become increasingly bold. Their influence would shape the choices that followed. The gang normalized fear and intimidation to gain respect, and the younger boys quickly embraced that mindset. Older criminals encouraged their behavior. They believed no one could stop them. Then came the mistake that would change everything. One rainy November night, a young woman was walking home alone through the streets of Adachi, Tokyo. Without warning, a vehicle pulled up beside her. Within moments, she was forced inside.
Brought to a cramped, cheap motel room under sickly neon lights. The true horror began. For hours, she was subjected to relentless cruelty, left shattered and helpless in the cold corners of the room. While the boys laughed without a shred of empathy, treating her horror like a game.
Unlike many victims, she survived, and after escaping, she went to the police. Although deeply shaken, she carefully described everything she could remember. Detectives quietly began watching the neighborhood. Unmarked police cars blended into traffic. Officers waited patiently, hoping the suspects would appear. Patience often decides whether an investigation succeeds or fails. Finally, the moment arrived. Two young men matching the descriptions were seen outside a local arcade. The detectives immediately recognized one of them. It was Hiroshi Miyano. Standing nearby was Shinji Minato. The officers moved quickly. Police vehicles surrounded the area before the suspects could react. For a brief moment, they tried to run, but there was nowhere left to go. Within seconds, both teenagers were restrained, handcuffed, and placed inside police vehicles. The confidence they had carried for months suddenly began to disappear. Inside separate interrogation rooms, detectives started asking questions. One suspect remained silent. Another appeared nervous. Both believed there wasn't enough evidence to keep them there. But the detectives weren't relying only on interviews. Another team was already searching their homes. Every room was photographed, every drawer was opened, every box was examined. Hours into the search, officers uncovered a hidden bag. Inside were personal belongings that clearly did not belong to the suspects. School items, accessories, identification cards. Each discovery raised even more questions. The evidence was carefully collected and brought back to the station. Later that evening, Detectives placed the recovered items onto the cold metal table inside the interrogation room. One by one, they examined each piece. Another student identification card appeared. The room suddenly became quiet. Even the suspect's expression changed. Slowly, the detective turned the card over. Looking back from the photograph was a smiling 17-year-old high school student. Her name was Junko Furuta. At that moment, everyone in the room understood one terrifying truth. This investigation had uncovered something far larger than anyone had expected, and the most heartbreaking part of the story was only beginning.